The hardest hit I ever received in all my years in the pros was the time I tried to make my best form tackle on William Andrews. I ran 10 yards straight at him as hard as I could. He didn't even see me. The whole time I was saying to myself, this is it. Then boom! I slid off him like butter. I hit the ground, but he didn't go down. That was what Hall of Fame defensive back Ronnie Lott had to say about an attempt he made to tackle Atlanta Falcons running back William Andrews. Everybody knows who Ronnie Lott is. Not only was he one of the most feared hitters in NFL history, he was a 4-time champion and a 6-time All-Pro. But who was William Andrews? William Andrews was arguably the NFL's best dual-threat running back for the Atlanta Falcons from 1979 through 1986. During a 5-year time frame from 1979 to 1983, the only other running back who could match his statistics was Chicago Bears Hall of Famer Walter Payton. In both 1981 and 1983, he had seasons of more than 2,000 yards combined rushing and receiving. This was an extremely rare feat at that time. While he was at the height of his powers, though, Andrews suffered a devastating knee injury that cut his career short. Once seemingly destined for the Hall of Fame, were it not for his injury, Andrews would be a lot more well known. For the benefit of those who don't know him, and as a reminder to those who do, let's take a look at the career of William Andrews. William Andrews was born December 25, 1955 in Thomasville, Georgia. At Thomasville High School, he set records for rushing yards in a season, rushing yards in a career, as well as the most touchdowns scored in a career, while leading the team to 2 state titles. He finished his career with 4,339 yards and 61 touchdowns. His high school career was so great that his school decided to retire his number 32 jersey before he even graduated. After he graduated, Andrews went to college to play for the Auburn Tigers. While he was there, he was primarily a blocking back, as he also played with future NFL running backs James Brooks and Josh Cribbs. Andrews finished his career at Auburn having rushed for 1,347 yards and 7 touchdowns. Surprisingly, for a player that wound up being such a great receiver as a pro, Andrews only caught 16 passes over the 3 seasons he played for the Tigers. Entering the NFL at age 23, Andrews was drafted in the 3rd round by the Atlanta Falcons in 1979. Coming into the league, Andrews was expected to again be a blocking fullback. This time, he'd be blocking for incumbent running backs Bubba Bean and Haskell Stanback. However, Andrews destroyed that notion immediately. In his first game as a pro, he rushed for 167 yards and a touchdown, leading the Falcons to an overtime win over the New Orleans Saints. Ironically, that total would be his career high for rushing yards in a game. In the second game, he rushed for 121 yards as the Falcons beat the Philadelphia Eagles. For the entire season, Andrews would go on to rush for 1,023 yards, along with 3 rushing touchdowns. He also caught 39 passes for another 309 yards and 2 more touchdowns. For his efforts, Andrews was named to the NFL All-Rookie team. In 1980, Andrews finished 4th in the NFL in rushing with 1,308 yards, while adding 5 total touchdowns. He also caught 51 passes for 456 yards. During that season, he had 6 100-yard rushing games, including 3 in a row near the end of the season. Additionally, he helped lead the Falcons to a 12-4 record, an NFC West Division championship, and a playoff berth. In the playoffs, he scored a touchdown and the Falcons lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Additionally, Andrews was named to the first of 4 consecutive Pro Bowl teams. 1981 would see Andrews reach a career high with 12 total touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,301 yards and finished 4th in the league in receptions, catching 81 passes for 735 yards. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 11, he caught 15 passes for 124 yards. He also led the NFL in yards from scrimmage. Andrews followed 1982 strike-shortened season with a career-high 1,567 yards rushing in 1983. Highlights from that season included 4 games where he rushed for at least 150 yards, including a 161-yard effort on only 21 carries versus the Miami Dolphins in Week 15. He capped off 1983 by rushing for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also catching 7 passes for 49 yards and another touchdown, while leading the Falcons to a win over the Buffalo Bills. After the game, his opponents had only great things to say about Andrews. Buffalo linebacker Lucius Sanford said, "I've always rated William Andrews as one of the toughest backs in the NFL to play against. He can hurt you in so many ways, and he has only one speed, all out. He's not just one of the best backs in pro football this season, he's been one of the best ever since he's been in the league." Former Auburn teammate and Bills running back Joe Cribbs said, "Andrews has always been a good athlete, and he's really come on in the past year." Buffalo coach Kate Stevenson would sum everything up by saying that he felt like Andrews was one of the best backs in the league, and the performance that he had that day was just average for him. Andrews' total from the Buffalo game helped him finish the year as only the second player in NFL history, after O.J. Simpson, to gain more than 2,000 combined rushing and receiving yards in 2 different seasons. What did Andrews think of these statistics? Quote, "I never worry about statistics or records. I never think of how good I can be, just how consistent I can be. As for the record, I'm just happy for our offensive linemen that made it possible. Any success I've had, I attribute directly to their efforts." Unquote. We're going to take a time out from our story to ask you to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, and repeat when it comes to our videos. Now, back to our story. Heading into the 1984 season, William Andrews was in a good place. He was arguably the most complete running back in the NFL. Additionally, in early August of 1984, he signed a new contract with the Falcons that included an annuity that would pay him $200,000 a year until he turned 70 years old. A couple of weeks later, though, his career, as well as his life, was changed forever simply because he wanted to change directions on a football field. During a practice on August 21st, 1984, Andrews suffered a left knee injury while running a play. Quote, "I planted my right foot and proceeded to jump to my left. My left ankle rolled over, and when I did that, my knee went," unquote, said Andrews. That's a very simple description of something that was much more devastating than that. After the play was over, Andrews later said that he felt a tingle, but he couldn't really explain what that was because he couldn't feel his leg. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Andrews continued to lay on the ground. He began breathing quickly while trying to avoid passing out. At the same time, he saw the look on rookie linebacker Thomas Benson's face, who was standing nearby when the play was over. Andrews reflected that he looked at Benson's eyes, and he can see in them the same look that Benson saw in Andrews' eyes. Once Andrews was taken to the training room, trainer Jerry Rea cut off Andrews' pants and put ice on his knee. This is merely a gesture, as Rea knew the ice wouldn't help. Prior to doing that, he'd already begun testing William to attempt to diagnose his injury. Rea didn't even get past his very first test when he asked Andrews to raise his toes. That was because Andrews couldn't do it, because nerve damage had paralyzed his lower leg. Later, during the 2-hour surgery to repair his knee, team physician John Garrett found an extreme amount of damage. Major ligaments in Andrews' knee were either ripped or shredded, and some cartilage was torn. However, the main issue was with his peroneal nerve. This is the nerve that runs from your knee down to your toes. If it had been severed, Andrews wouldn't have been able to even lift his foot. Luckily for him, his had only been stretched. This meant that he could eventually walk normally again. But playing professional football? Let's put it this way. Dr. Garrett called Andrews' injury the worst that he'd ever seen in football. He also said that this type of injury was normally seen in traffic accidents, not on the football field. Because of his injury, Andrews was immediately ruled out for the entire 1984 season. In fact, it would take another 8 months before they can even find out whether he would be able to play the following season in 1985. On top of that, because of the nerve injury, no one would guarantee or could guarantee that Andrews would ever play football again. Film from the practice would show that Andrews had suffered a non-contact injury. That same film would prove to be too ghastly and too demoralizing to the team and to Andrews to keep around, so the team had the film destroyed. Despite the facts surrounding his injury, Andrews was extremely optimistic about his chances of recovery. Even while he was sitting in a wheelchair with his leg in a cast from his hip all the way down to his ankle, he still believed that the nerve issue would fix itself. He was ready to begin the long months of strenuous rehab, and he didn't see any reason why he couldn't come back and still be one of the top running backs in the NFL. At 28 years old, though, realistically, Andrews also considered the possibility that his football career was over. Quote, "I've wrestled with the problem and discussed it with some of the Christians on the team, and they've reassured me God is in control of it now. With that in mind, I can only leave it up to him. I can leave it just as well as when I walked into it." Unquote. Ultimately, Andrews went on to say, "If I'm no longer able to play, I'm just no longer able to play." Once the surgery was over and Andrews was at home, he had all the time in the world to sit and think. He couldn't feel his foot, nor could he walk. He had to stay downstairs because he couldn't make it upstairs. And he'd spend long hours looking at his left foot and comparing it to his right foot. And he also spent that time looking at his toes, hoping that they would move. One day, excitedly, he went to see Dr. Garrett, and he told the doctor that his toes were wiggling. But it was only wishful thinking. Sadly, Garrett had to tell him that his toes weren't moving at all. About 8 months after his surgery, though, Andrews' left toe moved. Not long after that, he could flicker his toes. And from that point, Andrews' rehab began to yield improvement here and there. Eventually, though, his knee joint was sound and his leg muscles were nearly at full strength. After he missed the entire 1984 season and 23 months after he first suffered his injury, Andrews was able to participate in contact drills. Near the end of the 1985 season, he ran plays and practiced with the team while wearing a knee brace. As the 1986 season approached, no one knew what to expect from Andrews. Along with the knee injury, he had 2 other hurdles he had to overcome in order to make it back to the NFL. He'd missed 2 full years of NFL action, and he'd also turned 30 years old the previous December. That meant the time was working against him in more ways than one. At first, Andrews tried to work out wearing knee braces, but he removed them after just a few minutes. He came to find out that despite the long layoff, his knee felt good. At that point, Andrews knew that he had to find out then and there if he could play football again or not. He knew he couldn't put it off any longer, and he had to determine whether he was going to play football or whether it was time for him to do something else with his life. With those things in mind, Andrews did acknowledge that he had lost some of his speed, saying that he now ran the 40-yard dash in 5.0 seconds, when previously he had run a 4.6 40. However, he was never known for his speed, and Andrews said that he felt like he hadn't lost any of his quickness, which in his mind was more important. On top of that, he was healthy again, and that was all that mattered to him. He wasn't just content with making the team, though. He wanted to be able to contribute. Sadly, during the 1986 season, Andrews was a shell of his former self. Playing as a backup to his former backup, Gerald Riggs, Andrews logged only 52 carries for 214 yards. Leading up to the 1987 season, Falcons head coach Marion Campbell said that he planned to use Andrews as a situational player during the season. Speaking out against that line of thinking, Andrews said that if he wasn't what he called the definite factor for the team, he simply retired from the NFL. During the preseason, after he carried the ball 11 times for only 25 yards, Andrews felt that he knew what he had to do. To that end, in September of 1987, William Andrews announced his retirement from the NFL. Quote, "It's time for me to step down and give the younger players an opportunity to seek jobs here. I've certainly had a wonderful life in football. I thank God I've been given the opportunity to fight back in this thing and for allowing me to compete." Unquote. Following Andrews' announcement, Falcons owner Rankin Smith Sr. said of Andrews, quote, "His leadership was a pivotal factor in the success this team enjoyed in our playoff seasons." Unquote. William Andrews finished his career with 5,986 rushing yards and 30 rushing touchdowns. He added 277 receptions for 2,647 yards and another 11 touchdowns. He had 22 100-yard rushing games and was a 4-time Pro Bowler. As a testament to his bruising and powerful style of running, he accomplished everything he did without ever having a rush that was longer than 33 yards. Andrews retired as the Atlanta Falcons' all-time leading rusher and held 18 other team records as well. In 2004, Andrews was inducted with the inaugural class into the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor. Though he was once one of the NFL's brightest stars, it's a shame that William Andrews isn't more well known today. When he played, he was often overshadowed by more well-known or flashier players such as Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, and Tony Dorsett. Despite that, those who got to watch him play can testify as to how great the man truly was. Did you ever get a chance to see William Andrews play? Do you think he would have been a Hall of Famer if he hadn't gotten injured? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for checking out our video. We appreciate you spending time with us. We have other videos that need love too, so take some time to check those out as well. Also be sure and come back and check out our next release, where we continue to kind of look at players that were known back in the day, but because of time and change, people have kind of forgotten about them. So we hope you enjoyed this story. Thanks for checking us out, and see you soon.